everyone, and welcome to a brand new season of Making Moves, the podcast from the Center for Sport and Social Justice at Cal State East Bay. I'm your co-host for this season, Andrea Corrigan, sociology senior, lifelong athlete, nonprofit leader, and your CSSJ student rep. This season, we're exploring how sport shapes us, individually, culturally, and systematically, and how it can be used as a tool for justice. We're starting off this season with a two-part series that dives into coaching, what it means to coach, what qualifies someone to do it, and how identity and equity show up in the process. Today in part one, we're asking, what actually qualifies someone to coach? Is it certifications, years of playing, weekend availability, and a clipboard? Or is it something deeper, like the emotional intelligence to nurture growth and the cultural competence to lead ethically? To help us break it down, we're joined by two incredible guests. First off, Dr. Brian Gearity. He's the founder and director of the Master of Arts in Sports Coaching at the University of Denver. He's a sports psychology expert and a former strength coach for the Cleveland Indians and the University of Tennessee. We're also joined by Khali Blackman-Newton. She's the director of community engagement for the Positive Coaching Alliance in Northern California, as well as the founder of the Sport, Equity, and Access Coalition. Khali is a fierce advocate for social justice in sport, especially in Black and Brown communities. And of course, we'll be guided by our host, Lisa Bonta Sumii. She's an LCSW, a CMPC, the founder of AthMindset, as well as the mental performance coach for the Oakland Roots Soccer Club, and a nationally recognized voice in athlete mental health. Whether you're coaching youth, mentoring future leaders, or rethinking how sport can do this better, this episode is for you. Let's dive in with Lisa.
Andrea, thanks so much for that introduction. Really a pleasure to be here with Dr. G and Khali today. We are going to dive directly into some questions and see where the conversation goes, because I know it will be rich. So Brian, we'll start with you. Or I like Dr. G better. I'm going to do Dr. G. Can you give us an overview of coach education in the U.S. and how it compares to other countries?
It's a dumpster fire, and it's worse.
Okay, period, the end. That's it.
So let's start with the conclusion. Let's just cut to the chase and be real about it. So, to give a little bit more detail, coach education is really highly variable. It is probably well understood as polycentric, meaning there's a lot of people supposedly involved in it. It's highly deregulated. So when you look at local, state, federal law, oversight, regulation, professional knowledge and skills, licensure, certification, reporting, ethical standards, kind of hallmarks of a profession, coaching does not generally have that. Now, we might use some language at times to conflate it and talk about professional coaches or talk about the esteem of other coaches. And I don't want to take away from the good coaches out there doing that good work.
Right.
But it's really not well organized or structured. It's kind of like the Wild West. It really is. And I'll say this, and this kind of resonates when I say it to folks too. And you're just talking, right? The more you talk, you recognize some things that kind of resonate. Where else can you have such little education, preparation, regulation, but so much power, especially over so many young people?
Yeah.
That's coaching.
Yep. That kind of highlights it there, right? I mean, and maybe you will be asked, but I'm asking you now, if you could revamp the whole coaching education system, what would be the top 3 things that you would implement?
Yeah, it's a great question. So part of actually what we're doing too is there's our ongoing research study right now is trying to kind of get at some of those questions and think through that. What does that really look like? So I think one is the appropriate level of education or preparation before you can go coach. Coaching is so variable, right? And this is one of the challenges because you've got youth coaches that are paid, that are not paid. You got high school coaches that get a stipend that maybe are full-time. Maybe they got a booster club. Maybe they're volunteers. You got parent volunteers. You got collegiate coaches and professional coaches that make 6, 7, 8 figures.
Right.
So not everybody needs to be a PhD to go coach. I'm not saying that. All of this kind of nonsense gets us away from the important point of actually improving coach education and looking at the problems and doing something about it. So appropriate developmental pathway for coaches would be one. Got to have in-state and robust reporting regulation. For example, in Colorado, Department of Regulatory Agencies oversees psychologists, educators, teachers, or Department of Education will. You've got to have oversight. We can talk about safe sport and the USOPC and kind of NCAA. These people are not either charged with regulating their folks or have the capacity to do it. And so, we're going to have a great conversation about the good things that coaches can do. But when kids are getting abused and there's violence, maltreatment, and nobody really there to do it, and then a coach can get fired or just move on down the road or a different state, that is not a well-regulated system. So appropriate education, well-regulated system, those are the two big ones. Yeah, maybe I'll just do two for now.
Yeah. Maybe we can bump it over to Khali. I mean, the lack of proper coach education affects the development of young athletes, as Dr. G is talking about, both on and off the field, right? If you were to add maybe one or two more to the wish list of how coaches would be trained up, and then everyone feeling safe enough to have them in front of these young people who are human beings, who coaches are in a very position of power, which can be misused, abused even. What do you think about the long-term consequences that might arise from not having well-trained coaches? And yes, adding one or two more points to Dr. G's list of what you would add.
Yeah, I think he's spot on with those two. It needs to be regulated. It's currently not from organization to organization. Requirements for coaches are, all over the place. I would just add changing the mental model of, in our equity work, we talk about mental models and how can we change how people think and perceive coaches. And then that will lead to regulation. That will lead to paid positions in coaching because, coaching is something like a $19 billion a year industry across the country. There is money out there to pay coaches, but at our grassroots level, at our recreation level, we don't think of coaches in that way. We're just oh, it's just a parent volunteering their time. And coaches have such a huge impact on kids' lives. We should treat it as such, right? So being able to regulate that, being able to give them quality coach education, plug Positive Coaching Alliance in here.
Of course.
And, the other organizations that do it well too, but being able to bring us in or bring other coach education in and really start to standardize it across the city or locally, state, national level, I feel like would really change kids' lives.
I agree. I think Dr. G would too. This notion of our kids are getting abused. It's real and deep. What do you all think about the idea, and this is where I come in and we all kind of touch it adjacently, is the mental fortitude of coaches? What does that mean to you when I say that? And how could we bring in mental fortitude development into the coaching space? What would that look like? How would that benefit athletes on the field and off? Just some initial thoughts. We'll start with you, Dr. G.
Oh, yeah. It seems like it's such a sports psych sort of question, too. That one, right, there's more of a critical sociocultural person. I'm let's talk about discourses of mental fortitude. What's the historical?
Let's go. Talk from your own purview. I'm just throwing it out there. I want to see where it goes.
Just to answer, I'd probably just go with, what comes to mind when I think about mental fortitude, for coaches, right, is, the other terms like resilience and growth and strength and resource-based approaches as well to enable coaches to get on thriving in a profession. But I think that's generally kind of things that come to mind with the mental fortitude of coaches.
Yep.
I guess thinking of their preparation and not only coping, but the strength-based approaches to manage the challenges and develop self-care practices so they can hopefully endure and thrive in coaching.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was good. Yeah. Khali, how would you add to that?
I would definitely agree. I think, we all come to the court, to the field, to the pitch with our own stuff, right? And we as a society should pour into our coaches more so that they can pour into the kids more effectively. And if they have good mental fortitude, they have good coping mechanisms, they have, resilience factors, like they can pass that on either directly or just by being around them, pass that on to our kids. And that just builds stronger kids and stronger communities.
For sure. It is researched and stated that if the coach is mentally fortified, mentally tough, resilient, that affects their coaching practices and then thus the performance level of their athletes, not just as players, but as human beings. And having that role model that is, again, as we said, the power of what the coach has in raising someone is almost unethical to not have that, in my opinion. Is that controversial to say in this space with y'all?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think partly what we do is we talk about the positive coaching things. We talk about mental fortitude or strengths-based, grit, growth mindset.
Yep.
All of that is secondary to providing a safe, healthy, developmental approach to sport. And so you can't get to any of those outcomes with the rates of violence, maltreatment, abuse that we have anywhere. Mm-hmm. So it's all remediation and treating a broken person rather than getting to the root of how to develop a foundation that is safe and then builds on top of that.
Let's talk about that foundation. What would that entail, Khali? I mean, you guys already have a nice little handbook here of appropriate level of development, the oversight. What would be the first steps to start to chip away at even just one of these? Let's take the appropriate level of education.
The first level, I think, like I mentioned before, is changing our mental models to really value our coaches.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the foundation. And then now let's regulate our coach education. Let's add mental fortitude. Let's add coaching with empathy, positive coaching, all of these things can't happen if we're all here or here. We have to level set on a strong foundation that our coaches are important. Our coaches make a huge impact in our youth, and let's treat them as the superstars that they are.
What if they're resistant to that?
We do it anyways. Everybody's going to be resistant to it. Obviously, it takes resources, it takes funding, it takes all of these things that aren't necessarily the norm, but if we want our kids to grow up to be resilient, strong, independent, physically healthy, all of these things that come with being physically active and on a team, it really starts with our coaches and making sure that they're taken care of and they're properly trained and they're ready to, step into whatever situations coaching may bring, which as a middle school basketball coach can be a lot.
I mean, what you just got at is part of the structural problem. Part of the processes in coaching education is that, well, what if they don't want to do it? Well, they don't want to do it because they're volunteers. It's unregulated. They don't have any oversight. There's no requirements. There's no incentives. The compensation can be low. That's the mess that we're dealing with. And so, again, we don't even ask that question in other places. You're not like, doctor, did you not take the basic chemistry, anatomy, what to do if you have a tear? Oh, did you skip that class because you didn't like it? Or did you just glance over the competency there and decide not to do it? That wasn't on the exam that day? It's no, you don't do those sort of things. So,
right.
And then I go back for me too, right? In today's world, right, we have to market everything. We have to sell everything. How do we profit, right? And this is old school phys ed model. We have psychomotor, affective, and cognitive domains.
Right.
Right. What do people need to know? How they move? What are the emotions involved in the attitudes and relationships and values? We've got high quality education from physical education, cultural studies, and now kinesiology, exercise science. That's old, man. We've had that for 100 plus years. So lean into it. We've got great organizations and journals and universities and other folks that are putting out great education. It's just, we got to create a better system that makes it really required.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to develop these human beings who are coaches in a broken system. And so what to expect? They're not going to be fully equipped and not even sometimes know they're not until there's a crisis or something comes up or, if there are students and young coaches listening who may be unsure about the value of coach education, I think we've made it pretty clear, but are there ways that we could help them to advocate for themselves in this population, especially in terms of creating a positive, impactful coaching environment The young people are doing a lot these days, which is awesome. They have a lot of voice and power. How can we help them help themselves as the generations of coaches come through?
It's a great question. I think it starts like small, right? Like you have to get into it. For me, they found me at a career fair and they're like, "Do you like sports?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Do you like kids?" I don't know, right? I don't know yet. So let's get me out there. And I started coaching flag football, and I fell in love with it. So it's really something that you have to try. And I think people don't think they can be a coach, especially when we're talking at the rec level. Like, we just need people that are consistent and caring adults and that want to learn. So I would just say, like, be curious, try it. Even as an assistant coach, just like get out there and try teaching some kids something. Most people will find that they're well suited to be coaches.
And what's the reward? I'm going to follow up with Khali. What's the reward of being a coach from speaking to one directly? What's the reward? Why would you do? What's the intrinsic? How do you feel about it?
Great question. Yeah, I feel great. It's such a labor of love and it's great I'm coaching girls basketball right now. And I think in the month that we've been together, I've seen them grow leaps and bounds. And, over a season, you see them grow not only on the court for me, basketball, but like outside interpersonally. So for me, that's why I do it, is to be able to see the growth of our young people over time. And, it's great being in the community. I'll go to some high school basketball games and I'll see kids that I coached in middle school and now they're playing on a high school. Like, I'll see them at the grocery store. Like, I just love being in community and being able to be a part of something that's bigger than me.
I appreciate that. And that young people need to hear that part of it too, as they come into coaching. But Dr. G, I know I cut you off a little bit there about the value of coach education for the youth, for the upcoming coaches, them listening right now.
I think one of the questions that you asked was about how to, go about taking control for your education. And I'll encourage organizations, and it could be, a small one team. It doesn't have to be a big elite, dozens or hundreds or thousands of people. It could just be a coaching staff or a school, right? That somebody has hopefully, I think this is one that kind of relates back to my point about having different levels of education.
Yep.
Some folks are now paying more attention to organizational development, and they have like an embedded coach educator or a coach developer, much like we would do with like human resource development or a teacher resource developer. So somebody in there with advanced degree education experience that can help other coaches become better coaches. And there's a growing body of research and literature and books. We co-edited one of them on how to help coaches learn and grow. It's not a secret sauce. There's no magic, right? But there are, just like Khali said too, right? Open, curious, and go expand and learn a variety of things in the different domains to help you increase your performance, your knowledge and skills and all of that to succeed.
For sure, for sure. And all of that is so important. I hate to come back to here, but it's important. The money. If we're to zoom out from a community standpoint, a state level, a federal level, I don't want it only to be a labor of love. I want people to get compensated properly for their service. What would be, we are the Center for Sport and Social Justice. What would be a socially just act that anyone listening could do to advocate for money for our coaches, to be well paid, to be open to everything we're trying to throw at them, etc.? Dr. G, what would you say to that?
Tax the billionaires? Is that?
Yes, sir. That.
So one, right, we just talked about it earlier too, right? Like youth sports, even not even professional sports. These are billion-dollar industries. Like the money's there, right? And again, like people are making money. So whether it's nonprofit or for-profit, there's ways to set it up so it's appropriate. We don't want to crush volunteers and relatively lowly paid folks that are giving of their time. And we just need to have those folks out there because there's such a demand for it too. But let's also build a better system that colleges, universities, states, again, organizations that can professionalize this thing and get together, come up with systematic approaches to not only have the baseline, but then grow it from there and make those organizations pay for it. I mean, taxes should be supporting the public good, but Yeah, right. In today's political climate, economic climate, neoliberal climate, nobody wants to hear that. But I mean, that's the truth about it. And then all these folks that are making, the billions and trillions of dollars in sport, I mean, you got to pay it. You got to pay it back. I mean, some places have started taxing sport gambling as a way of trying to generate some revenue and flow it back to youth sports. Like, do it. Like, we're subsidizing the NFL and other so-called nonprofits with all sorts of subsidies. Like, pay it forward. That's what we should be doing too. So.
Interesting. So codifying a system like that to feed back into the community and start to have more of a quote unquote equitable playing field when it comes to resources and payment and things like that and support for the coaches. Yeah. Khali, what thoughts do you have on this? What would be a socially just way to start funneling money and resources and finances to the coaches?
And I think to Dr. G's point, it's hard to say what an individual can do to like advocate for this type of change. Like, it's going to take a whole system restructure. It's going to take us changing the whole youth sport landscape to be able to get something like this done. But like he said, like, the money is here. It's around. It can happen. I think that we could also look into building a pipeline of coaches to start, like, again, shifting these mental models. And maybe it's an NFL team in a certain city that puts funding into creating like a junior coach pipeline or creating some sort of pipeline in a city to where we're changing the idea that a coach has to be this like highly specialized thing. Like, let's start investing in our young people early so that they know that coaching is an actual viable career path and not just something that you do in the summers to get a small paycheck. But like, no, like, we're developing you, we're giving you a career pathway, and we want our coaches to be well-trained, well-regulated, and also well-paid. And that's an equity issue, right? Like, how can we go into communities and ask our parents who are already struggling, right? Our people that are struggling to get their day-to-day needs met to then also volunteer their time. Like, no, let's set up a system where we can pay them equitably for their time and make sure that it's like a sustainable thing for them, because we got to eat. They got to eat.
Yeah, that. Dr. G.
We know that, right, from research too, that for kids and the adults, the ones that are able to participate early in more sports and go coach and drive their kids there and spend that time with them are the ones that have more income, wealth, discretionary time and resources that they're not working the long shifts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
Volunteerism is like, being able to volunteer is a privilege in itself. Being able to spend your time. I hesitate to say, like, I love volunteerism. Like, that's how I started. I just think that it is a privilege to be able to spend your time somewhere for free. So how can we set it up so it's more equitable?
Because it's a double whammy, right? They're not spending that time getting paid, and they're doing something for free. It's like double taxed or whatever, not taxed, but like tripped up there. So it's a lot. This is a very rich conversation, so many ideas. I want to let you guys have the last words here before Andrea takes us on our outro. Dr. G, what last gems would you like to leave with us and all the listeners on this topic of coaching education?
It's so hard. These are like the blank slate questions. I go blank all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, well. You regurgitate some research or
do that.
Break down something.
Yeah. You're funny.
I feel like I tried, but that's about all I do. I just entertain people. It's more about the infotainment than it is the substance.
I love it.
So there's a lot of good organizations. I'll piggyback with one thing that Khali said too, that there's a lot of great organizations. I came up with the National Strength Conditioning Association, and so I got involved and joined that through some other coaches. When I was doing my internship, they said, join this organization. So I joined in 19. Went to conferences, networked, talked to folks, coached for a while, then did more of the academic turn, editing, writing, research. And so there's just so many different opportunities. I just talked last night, I'll use a story with my nephew who was interested in sports analytics. He's a freshman in college. Shout out to Jacob.
What's up, Jacob?
Let's go.
I talked funky to Jacob last night. And I told him, I said, right, like you're like, cool. Like, you're in college now, you're second semester of your freshman year, but like, you got to attack this stuff. You got to go out there and learn. Like, you're interested in data analytics. Cool. Like, go do this thing, go volunteer, go to MIT, go to Sloan Analytics, start downloading the software and the data and running numbers. Like, be valuable and be curious. And he's like, should I send out the email, my resume? And like, yes, you need to send that out to the folks and to where you want to be and attack that thing. Again, if you're respectful and somebody says, like, look, man, okay, stop emailing me, but then read the room. But also, people want to see that passion. So that's available for all levels and all people. Like, there's plenty of literature and books and organizations and groups out there doing this work. So go check it out. Go to the ASP conference, go to the sport sociology conference, go to coach education conferences. They're all over the place.
Love it. It's important. People got to do that research, check it out, put their foot forward, be vulnerable, take a risk, get at it, like you're saying, and no one's going to serve it to you. So learn what you're passionate about, go after it. Khali, what would you add?
I would add that, like, understanding that there's outside of coaching, right? Like, as a person, there's so many factors that go into being able to do it, and we get it. I think coaching is such a valuable opportunity and space to be able to affect young people's lives, and it's much needed right now. For me specifically, I'm charged with leading, but really serving our Oakland Sport Equity Coalition, and off the backs of a Aspen Institute Project Play State of Play report in Oakland, like, only 14% of our Oakland youth get the recommended 60 minutes of physical activity a day. And we put together a group of stakeholders to talk about what we want to do about it. So it's super Oakland led, but one of the barriers is coaching. So get out there. Like I said earlier, like, be curious. If you just want to give it a shot, my email, I'm sure, will be somewhere in the bio. Like, I'll hook you up with a free PCA online coaching workshop. Like, just come give it a try and see what you think, and take what's good for you and leave what's not. But I think there's just so many opportunities for folks to have just a lasting impact on this earth, and we can't do it alone. So let's do it together.
Well, let's end on that. Thank you so much, Dr. G, Khali, for your wisdom, passion, spirit, and we so appreciate your contributions today.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for hosting us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Huge thanks to our guests today, Dr. Brian Gearity, Khali Blackman-Newton, and of course, Lisa Bonta Sumii, for grounding this conversation in both passion and experience. And today reminded us that coaching isn't just about technical skills or shouting from the sidelines. It's about modeling resilience, holding space, and leading with awareness. Whether you're a parent stepping in for your kid's team or a certified pro with a clipboard, we hope this sparked reflection on why and how we coach. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a coach, a mentor, or a teammate, and leave us a review so more folks can find Making Moves. This episode was produced by Sports eMedia. Special thanks to California State University East Bay and to the Center for Sport and Social Justice for supporting this podcast and championing inclusion, access, and equity in athletics. In part 2 of this coaching series, we're shifting gears from personal qualifications to systematic equity. We'll hear from 2 guests who are involved in programs focused on diversifying coaching and explore how the work of building inclusive teams really builds off of what we've discussed today. Until then, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep making moves.